Joseph Stalin collapsed on the floor in his room from a massive stroke, but instead of calling for medical help, his staff waited an entire night, afraid to enter. You see, Stalin was known to execute anyone who disturbed him. Fearing that, they waited until morning before finally discovering his unconscious but still alive body. But by then it was too late.
Today we're looking at TikToks that will make you rethink everything.
A sniper once attempted to use bullets made entirely of ice to take out a target without leaving any evidence behind. Since these bullets would melt inside the body, they could theoretically vanish without leaving a trace of the shot. But in reality, ice rounds were incredibly unreliable. Most broke apart mid-air or failed to fire at all.
Thank you to all the channel members for support. If you see this video, just go ahead and like it. We don't even got to do the like goal as long as we just, you know what I'm saying? As long as you see it and you like it, maybe we could hit 5,000 likes, who knows? As y'all know, we're on the road to 100K. We're about to hit 70K. So make sure to subscribe and join the fam. Let's go.
Humans didn't start out white. For most of history, everyone was dark-skinned. You see, early humans lived near the equator, where the sun is brutal and dangerous. So their bodies made melanin, a pigment that shields skin from UV rays and keeps radiation from ripping DNA apart. Without it, the sun would shred their cells, causing mutations and deadly cancer. Dark skin was life or death. But when people started migrating north, everything changed. The sun got weaker. The same melanin that once protected them started blocking out too much light. Less sunlight meant less vitamin D, and without it, bones grew fragile, immune systems collapsed, and survival got harder. So, over thousands of years, their skin adapted. Dark skin mutated gradually, generation after generation, to let in just enough sunlight to stay alive. Light skin came from the cold, and it only exists because the sun went missing.
What actually happens to your body in a plane crash? First, you're hit by G-forces up to 16 times your body weight. Your spine compresses, bones snap, organs shift. If you're not braced, your head slams into the seat in front. At impact, everything happens in less than a second. Internal bleeding, shattered ribs, instant unconsciousness. In most fatal crashes, the real cause isn't the fall. It's the sudden stop. Survival? It depends on your seat, your posture, and luck. That's why they tell you to brace. Not to save the plane, but to give your body a chance.
She was born mid-air on a plane and scored 3 citizenships and free flights for life. This baby didn't just cry when she entered the world, she cashed in. Her mom went into labor mid-flight on a Saudi Airlines plane headed for New York. But here's the twist. When the baby popped out, the plane wasn't over Saudi Arabia or the US. It was flying between England and Ireland. That meant no one knew what country she officially belonged to. So both England and Ireland gave her citizenship. Then, when the plane landed in the US and her documents were issued, her third passport was unlocked. Triple citizenship before she could even crawl. But it doesn't stop there. Saudi officials were so thrilled, they gave her free flights for life on Saudi Airlines. All because her mom took a flight while in labor. Coincidence or genius-level mom strategy? Either way, this baby didn't just board a plane. She hijacked fate and came out with passports and perks most of us only dream of. All because
I'm thinking, like, if her mom's from Saudi Arabia, why couldn't the kid just be a Saudi Arabian citizen? Wouldn't that make sense? But I mean, she got all of them, so at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, she got the most out of the benefits.
Yale University posted the most cursed book in history to the internet, and it's driving people insane. A 250-page medieval codex written in an unknown language that no one has been able to decipher for over 600 years. But an Egyptologist claims he cracked it and knows exactly what it says. The Voynich manuscript is an ancient book filled with this unknown writing and drawings that suggest it might be some sort of manual for black magic or sorcery. Written sometime between 1404 and 1438 on pages made from calfskin in an indecipherable text that we haven't been able to translate. It's kind of crazy to look at, like it obviously says something and has a clear linguistic structure to it, but we just have no idea what any of this means. Everyone has tried to solve it. Mathematicians, computer scientists, linguists, historians, the FBI. Even the cryptographer who famously cracked the German Enigma code, Alan Turing, gave it a shot and failed. Along with the text, the book is filled with cryptic pictures of plants, creatures, astronomy, and naked women in bathtubs. The book is divided into roughly 4 sections: herbal, astrological, balneological, which is the study of the therapeutic use of baths, and pharmacological, medicine. First, the herbal section is filled with diagrams of plants that don't even exist, at least not on Earth, shaped like stars, circles, and other strange growth patterns. Some pages even have weird looking animals on them, like this little seahorse thing nibbling on one of the leaves, and other mythical looking creatures all throughout, thought to be either a botanical guide or some sort of instructions for alchemy, telling the user what plants to use and for what. Then the astrological section gets interesting as the pages fold out and show complex maps of the night sky and potentially even deep space, featuring known constellations like Sagittarius, Pisces, and Aries, but they're just a little bit off from what they're supposed to look like. And there are even some star charts that are completely unknown to us, either just made up or showing us a part of space we're not aware of. Balneological gets weird, featuring naked women in baths and pools in all sorts of odd shapes. Some of the baths even being shaped like a woman's ovaries, with them lounging in their tubes which pour back into the larger tubs. And again, since we have no idea what any of this text is saying, the context can range from anything as innocent as women's hygiene to sacrificial rituals. The final pharmacological section is basically all writing, many pages of thick text assumed to be recipes for medicine or maybe magic potions, all written in the elusive Voynichese language, as it's being called, that still remains a mystery, until people started insisting they solved it. It's kinda like English in that it's written left to right and appears to have 20 to 25 different letters, but the book's history suggests otherwise. The manuscript circulated in relative obscurity since it was written in the 1400s, getting purchased and passed along by emperors and alchemists who saw interest in it. It then disappeared for about 250 years, where we don't know who had possession and what happened to it, and was later brought to popular attention by Polish bookkeeper Wilfred Voynich in 1912, who rediscovered it and dedicated his life to it, and is where the book gets its name. It was later donated to Yale's manuscript library, where it still physically remains today, and in 2020 they published the entire manuscript to their digital library, which you can view yourself. For hundreds of years, no one could figure out what this book was about, but in 2020, German Egyptologist Rainer Hannig claims to have cracked it. His analysis shows us that Voynichese is based in a Semitic language, most likely being Hebrew in origin. Nope, don't you dare say it. Cross-referencing Voynich characters with certain Hebrew letters, he managed to translate a few words, followed by full-on sentences. And it says a whole bunch of gibberish. Experts are not convinced this guy solved anything. One of his translations read, "I am a bull ready, which facilitates and renews house and ruins. You are a piece of lamb, which opens the mouth and is discouraged when I. Yeah. This isn't the first time. The Voynich manuscript has claimed to be deciphered dozens of times, and each one just doesn't quite make any sense. More recently, computer scientists at the University of Alberta used AI to help them translate the cryptic text, which also happened to determine that the language is likely Hebrew in origin. They even successfully translated the first sentence in the book, which reads, "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house, and me and people." Not much better. They insist they're making progress, but clearly it needs a lot of work. Regardless of what it says, many theories around the manuscript speculate what the codex could possibly even be about. Some people think it's just an ancient women's health manual, which looking at it kinda makes sense. I guess the astrological section would have been their zodiac column, right? Others say it was written by an inner circle of philosophers in a code that only they could understand, and the cipher died with them. Or perhaps the final logs by the last standing survivors of a forgotten civilization lost to time, written in their native tongue. Maybe even an alien from another planet who crashed on Earth over 600 years ago, and without any way to get back to his home planet, decided to chronicle his life's work on pages of calfskin. If it is a real language lost to time, it wouldn't even be the first we've ever come across. Like Rongo Rongo, another undeciphered script composed of glyphs discovered on Easter Island. This one's more hieroglyphic-y, but to this day we have no idea what any of this means. But still others say it's just an ancient hoax written by someone in the 1400s as a prank, which I think is more ridiculous than it being written by aliens, but that's just me. Tying it back to medieval occultists like Edward Kelly, who claimed to go into deep trances while communicating with angels, an act historically known as speaking in tongues, or glossolalia, and would write down what the angels told him in their native angel language that no one could read, speak, nor understand, claiming the Voynich manuscript is filled with that writing. But people say a lot of these angel speakers were nothing but scam artists, and this book was just a giant con to get people to believe something and is just literal chicken scratch gibberish. If this really is a hoax, that's some impressive looking fake language right there. I'm gonna stick with aliens. Final answer.
This is a blade of grass under a microscope. Notice the smiley faces? These are what are called vascular bundles, where water is transported to the leaf. So every time you go outside, remember that the grass is happy to see you. Peace, oh please.
They say when you cut a blade of grass, that smell that you smell, like the fresh grass cutting smell, is actually the grass begging for help or something like that. It's them kind of sending warning signals to each other, which is interesting.
Why does the B-2 stealth bomber, one of the most advanced aircraft in the world, come equipped with facilities like a bed, toilet, and microwave? The answer lies in the nature of the missions it undertakes. The B-2 is designed for extremely long-range operations, with missions often lasting from 20 to 30 hours. In fact, the B-2 holds the world record for the longest air combat mission, flying non-stop for an astonishing 44 hours. During such long-duration flights, it's impossible for a single pilot to stay alert and focused for the entire mission. Fatigue can impair judgment and reaction times, which are critical when flying deep into enemy territory or conducting precise bombing runs. That's why the B-2 is equipped with these amenities, allowing one pilot to rest while the other flies. The bed provides a place to sleep, while the microwave allows pilots to heat up meals, ensuring they stay nourished and ready for action. This setup helps maintain peak performance and concentration, allowing pilots to alternate between flying and resting. By incorporating such comfort and utility into its design, the B-2 remains one of the most capable and reliable aircraft for strategic operations in the U.S. Air Force, offering both stealth and endurance for long missions.
When the Titanic sank, over 1,500 people remained trapped inside, drowning with the ship as it went under. Now, you might think the bodies would still be in the wreck to this day, but over time, the freezing sea temperatures and pressure have destroyed most of the remains, and hungry sea creatures would have eaten anything else that's left over. But the engine room still remains sealed off, untouched by oxygen or sea creatures, meaning dead bodies might still remain there, undisturbed to this day.
Things I wish I had never learned. Your booty hole has taste buds. That's why spicy food burns on the way out. Figs aren't vegan. They have a bunch of unalived wasps in them. Tarantulas can swim in water. When you're giving birth, your large intestines can slip out through your bumhole. You spend 5,000 hours of your life looking for misplaced objects. CNN has a pre-recorded broadcast to air when the world is ending. The voice actor for Peter Pan, he was found unalived when he was 30 years old in a warehouse, an abandoned warehouse, covered in religious pamphlets and beer bottles. It's really sad. He was also unidentified for days. The average pair of dirty underwear contains 1/10 of a gram of boo-boo. And then you put it inside of your washing machine and it slowly starts coating the inside of your washing machine. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're constantly swallowing snot. And then by the end of the day, you've averaged like 2 cups of snot that you've just... Nightmare on Elm Street is based on a true story. I have a whole video about this, but people were getting unalived in their sleep after reporting crazy dreams. Yeah,
there's a lot of people in my comments that are like, dude, why do all these creators make up these words like unalived and blah, blah, blah? At the end of the day, bro, these creators are just trying to get paid because, like, dude, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, they'll take videos down for the stupidest reasons. Like one of my videos the other day, it got completely demonetized because it showed an explosion. Mind you, there was no one that got exploded. It was just a plane that exploded. They're like, nah, this is violent. I'm just like, dude, like what? Like, are we just going towards like a very soft era now? Like, you can't say anything that's like remotely like normal, I guess you could say. How does a plane exploding get me demonetized, bro? Like, what? Come on, dude. If you got to see this far in the video, remember to like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 100K. Join the fam.
This isn't World War III. We're not heading towards it. Get that out of your head. I understand the conflict going on with Iran and that other country in the Middle East, along with Russia and Ukraine, but this is still very small fry. Look at the disproportionate level of damage done between both countries. Iran managed to get their drones and missiles through the Iron Dome and other levels of defense to hit apartment complexes. Maybe they hit one federal building. But the level of damage that Iran has suffered is disproportionately worse. There are constant barrages going deep into Tehran. They've destroyed a great deal of Iran's nuclear facilities. They've killed over 20 top military leaders in Iran, along with 6 or 7 nuclear scientists. Since last year, Iran's air defenses have been all but dismantled, meaning billions of dollars of purchases from Russia to get the S-300 and the S-400 are now worthless. Iran's military infrastructure is heavily damaged. So is their energy infrastructure. As you could see, their Tehran oil refinery is ablaze. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a war between these two countries, but it is a war that Iran will lose if it continues. Just think, Iran has launched 6 or 7 barrages of missiles and drones, and they have not managed to take out one member of their enemy's military leadership. As to what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, just remember that Russia signed a 20-year strategic partnership agreement with Iran this January, and they have failed to honor it because they have their hands full. Russia has been reeling from wave after wave of successful Ukrainian penetration and strikes deep into Russia's military infrastructure. Aside from the Ukrainian drone strike that removed 34% of Russia's nuclear bomber capability, along with losing over 100 armored vehicles and 15 tanks in a day, Ukrainian MiG-29 just destroyed a Russian drone hub by Zaporizhzhia. This is important because about 10 days ago, Russia was producing 170 Shahed drones a day. That number is going to be a lot less now. Ukraine has managed to freeze, or at least stall, the Russian military machine in their own country. Oh, but Russia has nukes. The Russians don't even know if somehow the Ukrainians have managed to infiltrate Russia's nuclear program.
What about China?
China can't even take Taiwan at this point, and they definitely can't send an army over to reinforce Iran or Russia. China doesn't have a blue water navy. They have no logistical capability, no military expertise. They haven't fought a battle in 50 years. Now, it's true that China can produce between 200 to 600 times more naval vessels than the United States in a single year. But do they have the sailors and just leaders to actually navigate the ships necessary? No, they don't. China is also surrounded by very populated and fairly powerful countries that don't like them. So the only role that China can play and will play in the future for Russia and Iran's conflicts is that of a supplier. That's it. But even with China heavily supplying Iran and Russia, it's already been shown that Ukraine has so heavily infiltrated Russia and Iran has been so heavily infiltrated by their enemy that any supply drop-off at this point can easily be destroyed. So we aren't witnessing World War III. We are watching a contraction of power of the 3 main enemies and rivals of Western interests. That's it. Russia and Iran will be less useful gas stations and weapons depots for China. Russia and Iran can no longer exchange weapons at the scale that they once did because now they are both under full attack. And this has all been done with NATO not having to fire one single bullet. They just used 2 proxies. Ukraine against Russia, and then the hatchet man of the Middle East against Iran. I am the Geo Husar. If people are trying to scare you again about World War III, just show them this post. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this World War III news always be making me think like, I know this is a stretch. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, all right, yeah, you're dragging it, kid. Like that's not what's going on. But in my head, it's like, I wonder if all of this, like, this is a stretch. Don't get me wrong. This is a stretch. This is gonna be a stretch. But I be thinking about it sometimes. And just in case it happens, just remember, I said it in this video. I mean, I'm recording it way earlier than it's gonna come out. But like, this video in June, I wonder if World War III or like this whole event is a setup for World War III, just so Trump could stay in office. Because remember now, FDR, he stayed in office for a lot longer because they were in the midst of a war. So just think about that. Something to think about.
You will be the soldiers of World War III. I'm talking to everyone in a NATO country between the ages of 18 and 26 years old. Listen closely. Share this with everyone because this isn't hypothetical anymore. This is where we are headed. Right now, Russia has officially abandoned all peace talks and declared the total destruction of Ukraine as its goal. NATO is mobilizing, the US is deploying assets in Europe, marking the most comprehensive defense posture since the Cold War. And tensions, they're stretching thinner by the hour. You think you'll have a choice? Think again. The moment Article 5 is triggered, everything changes. There will be a draft, and this time, they're not going to ask. And here's the real truth as to why. America isn't ready. Europe isn't ready. If this escalates, survival won't just mean avoiding the front lines. It'll mean enduring chaos here at home. Economic collapse, civil unrest, supply chain failure. Because when the system breaks, and it will, war becomes local. And as a father, I will say this plainly. I will not let my sons die in a war built by the mistakes of men in suits. Not for NATO, not for global posturing, not for lies wrapped in flags. So you better start thinking now. Because if this continues, the question isn't if war is coming. It's how soon.
When a wombat gets attacked by a predator, it quickly runs back to its cave and blocks the entrance with its butt, because its butt is made of thick cartilage which makes it hard to bite or scratch. And if the predator tries to stick its head deeper, the wombat will use its butt to crush their head, and eventually they kill them by aggressively twerking their ass.
Let's talk about one of the most notable UFO events, the Coin incident. And no, I'm not talking about this coin. On October 18th, 1973, just after 11 p.m., 4 officers were flying in a UH-1 helicopter over Mansfield, Ohio, headed from Columbus to Cleveland. And that's when they see it, a red light in the sky. At first they think it's a plane, but it's coming fast. They dive in to avoid collision, dropping from 2,500 to 1,700 feet. Suddenly, the object stops in midair and just hovers. It's shaped like a cigar, metallic, gray, with a red light in the front, and a bright green beam that shines directly into the cockpit. Then, the helicopter starts climbing, without their input. The controls are locked. The altimeter shows them rising 1,700 feet, all the way to 3,500. Then, just as suddenly, the object moves westward, disappears in seconds. On the ground, people see it too. A mother and her kids in a car, a group of teens in a field, all describe the same thing. A glowing, silent object in the sky. Captain Coin files a report with the FAA. The crew's account is consistent. No radar contact, no aircraft in the area. The Army calls it an unknown object. Coin eventually presented his experience at the United Nations in 1978. Skeptics say it was a meteor, but this doesn't make sense, seeing the object hovered and shot beams. To this day, no one can explain what happened in the sky that night. Just 4 military pilots and an unidentified craft. In a night that is now implemented in the UFO history. This is Saeed Rahman with Enigma Labs, where we document the unknown.
A Frontier flight landed so hard on Tuesday that pieces of its nose gear broke off, were ingested by the engine, causing an engine fire before they eventually did a go-round. Frontier Flight 93506 was landing in Puerto Rico after its flight from Orlando International Airport. The first landing attempt did not go as planned. They slammed the plane down, causing significant damage to the nose gear and losing a tire. Pilot then conducted a go-round, but something, presumably debris from the now broken landing gear, had been ingested into the left engine, causing a fire. The plane then did a low pass of the airport so the tower could observe the condition of their landing gear, and then finally conducted a safe landing, but this time on the airport's other runway.
Dude, you know how violently he must have landed that just for it to like get pieces of it in the engine? That'd be terrifying. You're just chilling on the plane like, oh, we're about to land, and you're boom! You're just like, what the? You're just like, yeah, we're gonna, it's over. We're gonna be unalived, it's over. Imagine.
A sniper once attempted to use bullets made entirely of ice to take out a target without leaving any evidence behind. Since these bullets would melt inside the body, they could theoretically vanish without leaving a trace of the shot. But in reality, ice rounds were incredibly unreliable. Most broke apart mid-air or failed to fire at all.
So Fairlife was deemed the most unhealthy drink in America.
Is anyone else cooked like I am?
I used to drink like 2 of these a day because I go to the gym, and who doesn't want 60 grams of protein in like 5 minutes? What is the side effect of the most unhealthy drink in America? Am I gonna start shitting microplastics now? People are making it sound like it's detrimental to my health. Like, am I gonna take a one day?
Look down. There's gonna be a whole reconstructed Fairlife bottle in the toilet.
Or am I gonna live till I'm 50 thinking it didn't affect me, and then croak over and heart stopped? And the thing is, I was always sus of having 30 grams of protein in one small but I still drink it anyway. But honestly, I don't even think it's that big of a deal because people still consume Red 40 and all this other on the daily. So I think we'll be fine. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments.
This is pretty sad stuff about Fairlife because I drink the out of it. The problem is the microplastics. Fairlife was the #1 in everything they tested by a wide margin. Specifically the Core Power High Protein Milkshake Chocolate, which is what I've been buying out the wazoo for the last like 4 or 5 months. Been popping off in terms of popularity too. Like everyone at the warehouse drinks them as well. They're just really good. They are really, really good. You can boil up to 2 minutes over 90% of the microplastics from regular drinking water. Try doing that with the milk. Brother, the last thing I want to do with a milkshake is boil it. I'm not going to be drinking any more Fairlife anymore. It's really such a shame.
Dude, me and the boys drink Fairlife all the time. That is actually really sad. Dude, I have Fairlife in my fridge right now. So for those who don't know, like, you know what I'm saying, I'm an average gym goer. Like, I work out a lot more than the average person, I would say. So, you know what I'm saying, like, I appear small up here, but like low-key, you know what I'm saying, like, I'm a diesel. Let me show you. So I usually drink the protein shakes and the milk, but I've been drinking the milk a lot more lately. And apparently this has microplastics in it, along with the actual like milkshake version of it. 13 grams of protein, like, you know what I'm saying, high protein. Like, why would I not drink it? But that's scary, and it kind of makes sense because I used to be like, how the heck does this protein shake has milk in it, but it can like sustain itself without being in a fridge for like months? Because if you ever drink like any other protein, or even sometimes this doesn't even need to go in the fridge until you open it. Once you open it, then you have to put it in the fridge. But before you open it, it can literally stay on shelves for like a couple months, which is a little bit questionable.
Have y'all seen the video of this girl? She's like brand new to the army. And she's like, I just wanted to show you what the army feeds us. And she opens up this box and it's got steak and lobster and desserts. A full to-go box full of extravagant food. She's like, wow, the army's not that bad. And the comments are like, oh no, we're cooked. They said, baby, you're about to deploy. And she's like, what? What do you mean? Baby, the army is not giving you steak and lobster on a random weekday. You talk about some, wow, why don't I join sooner? They treat us so well, steak and lobster, y'all should join. Baby, there's a war behind you. You about to go, you about to be sent off. And she's replying to all the comments, she's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Somebody was like, baby, I am a civilian and I know that's not good. She over there just chowing down, so delicious, so delicious. I know for a fact, an hour later, she opens up TikTok to have this thing flooded with comments. She went from peacefully enjoying steak and lobster for lunch to pissing herself.
So the Air Force admits that an alien escaped from Area 51 in the 80s. Air Force Office of Special Investigations Richard Doty stated that he was on the team that was trying to find this alien. It escaped and took off into the desert. It was actually captured by a guy named Wainwright, Gus Wainwright. He was a trapper. He found this thing just crawling around and he captured it. Now this is what it looked like, quataloid here. That's what they call it, a quataloid. He captured it, called the police came down, the government got word of it, they came down, and they said, hey, we're taking this thing. And Gus Wainwright actually had taken a photo. He took the photo, and he had all this camera footage of it, and the government, of course, took it. So when they took it, it was 35 millimeter. They took that, all of his film, and they left. But he had it. He had one shot left. And he posted it up in a bar in Nevada. And everybody was looking at this thing, thinking it was strange, and nobody knew that it was really a real alien with a real picture taken. Crazily enough. So, anyway, do you believe this story? Do you believe this story? It's a good one.
If your cat suddenly dies, most people would grieve and then bury it instantly. Cats can sometimes enter a state of shock that mimics death. To help, fill a sink with warm water and gently place the cat in it. The warmth will restore circulation and might bring your cat back to life.
Do you remember when this famous comedian got robbed for $12 million? Now this whole story starts with this guy, Dane. And Dane's around 16 during this time, living in Boston, and his family is struggling. They're surviving on welfare and food stamps. But one day, he decides he's gonna get himself and his family out of the struggle. And he's gonna do it by becoming famous in the comedy world. So, over the next few years, he spends all his time trying to be a comedian. Like every night, he's working on his material in local comedy clubs, and by the time he's in his 20s, Dane is spending every single night working the scene trying to make this happen. And he does this for years.
There was a big naked white guy, no pee-pee. He had he had nothing down there.
But then, in 1998, he finally gets a bit of a break. He gets a stand-up segment on Comedy Central. Then, in 2000, he gets his own half-hour special.
I wish I was a snake.
Dude, you ever wish you were a snake?
And of course, being on TV helps promote his live shows, so now he's making a little bit of money. And with some of this money, he wants to make sure his family is taken care of. And so he buys his mom a nice house. But he also wants to help out this guy, Daryl. Daryl is Dane's half-brother and his very close friend. They actually grew up together. And so Dane goes to Daryl and he's like, hey, you want a job? I could pay you to be my business manager or something. And even though Daryl really doesn't have much experience with this stuff, Dane really wants to help him out. So Daryl hears this offer and he's like, all right. And he comes on board as business manager, and Dane pays him a salary, and Daryl handles a lot of Dane's finances and makes sure his taxes are paid on time and stuff. So this deal works great for both of them. Then in 2002, Dane does something completely unheard of at the time. He starts taking advantage of the internet, which is the norm now, but stand-up comics aren't doing this in 2002. But Dane is smart. He makes a website and he's like posting footage of his stand-up shows, and through this he starts getting an even bigger fan base. Then in 2004 he starts a MySpace page. Remember MySpace? One of the first really big social media platforms? Again, stand-up comics were not doing this at the time. But Dane does it, and this gives him tons of visibility, and suddenly, kaboom, his career blows the fuck up. And now he's everywhere, and he has millions of followers, his comedy albums are going platinum, he's performing at Madison Square Garden, sometimes twice in one night, and suddenly Dane is far from being the welfare kid he started out as. Now he's one of the biggest comedians in the world, and everyone around him is super happy for him and very supportive. Until... well, not everyone is very supportive. Daryl, his business manager, his half-brother, his longtime close friend, Daryl sees his younger brother experiencing all this success and making all these millions of dollars, and at some point, he starts to think that maybe he's entitled to some of it. And Dane already pays him $150,000 a year salary, but that's apparently not enough for Daryl. He wants more. And instead of asking his brother for a raise like a normal person, he decides he's just gonna steal it. So he gets to work and he starts wiring money from Dane's business accounts right into his own personal account. And he writes fake checks from Dane to himself. And Daryl is good at covering his tracks. He sends Dane fake bank statements to make it look like all the finances are good and that everything is adding up. And as the years go by, he steals millions from Dane. And his wife is helping him do it, like this turd, Erica. And Daryl and Erica are spending this stolen money. They buy jewelry, they buy an $800,000 condo in Maine, they invest in a bunch of businesses like a hotel complex and a couple of restaurants. Daryl even racks up over $1 million in credit card debt just buying shit for himself, and then he pays that credit card off with Dane's money. And just in case all this goes south, he starts hiding hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in the walls at his multiple homes he now owns. In total, it's estimated that he stole a minimum of $12 million from his own brother. And poor Dane, he's working so hard, he doesn't notice any of this money is missing because he believes these bank statements, and of course he trusts his brother, they grew up together. But then, Daryl's scheming all starts to fall apart. Because as Dane becomes more and more famous, he starts getting a lot more movie deals and stuff, including a movie with Kate Hudson, one with Jessica Simpson, another one with Jessica Alba. And so in 2008, Dane officially becomes a resident of California, and he starts having his taxes filed there. And as such, he has to find a new business manager in Los Angeles, one who's a little more experienced with that side of things. And it sucks to do, but Dane has to go and break the news to his brother that he's switching managers. But he says that he'll figure out a new job for him, keep him in the family business and help him out. Now, I assume Daryl acts all chill about this, but obviously handing over the books to someone else is horrible news for him. What if this new manager sees that he's been stealing all this money? And so eventually, Dane's new manager does his job and he hits up Daryl to hand over all of Dane's financial records. And Daryl starts acting really shady and like he makes up all kinds of excuses as to why he can't do it, and this stalls things for a while. However, Daryl realizes that he can't keep this up for long. He needs a new plan fast. And so, in a panic, he starts Googling things like white-collar attorneys and how to hide money. And when that doesn't get him anywhere, he eventually realizes that his only option is to go on the run. And so, he and his wife, they start making plans to leave and travel the world. Then, he forges Dane's signature and writes one last check to himself for $3 million, and he deposits it into his personal account. Meanwhile, Dane's new manager hits up Dane and is like, your brother's ignoring me. And so Dane sends Daryl a stern message saying, bro, you need to FedEx those documents right now. And Daryl's like, I'm working on it. But he's definitely not working on it. Because 2 days later, Daryl and Erica hop on a 4 a.m. train headed out of the state. Then they rent a car and they drive somewhere, I don't know, they completely disappear off the map. And this disappearance is when Dane gets super suspicious, as he's finally starting to realize that his brother might just be a terrible person. And so he goes to Bank of America himself, because he's going to try to get into his accounts. But as it turns out, he doesn't even have access to his own bank accounts. And when the bank managers finally do let him into his accounts, where there should be millions of dollars waiting for him, he sees there's actually $0 waiting for him. Apparently, Daryl cleared these accounts all out. And of course, this is devastating for Dane. Like, how could someone so close to him betray him like this? I mean, this is probably some of the worst pain he's ever felt in his life. And so, he has no choice but to finally go to the police. Then, a few weeks later, police find Daryl in Massachusetts, and boom, they arrest him. And I don't have a mugshot for him, but here he is in court in handcuffs. Also, bam, they arrest Erica. Here's her mugshot. And Daryl pleads guilty and he gets sentenced to 6 years in prison, while Erica, she gets 3 years in prison, and they have to pay Dane back all the money they stole. So, good for him.
There's a saying, I think, where it's like friends and family and business don't mix or something like that. I mean, honestly, that story kind of got me mad because, like, dude, you're in prison for 6 years. How are you going to pay back like $12 million? Let's be real. You're not.
What's up, everybody? I think about this every day. How the CIA concluded in a report that we live in a holographic light matrix after completing the Gateway experience created by Robert Monroe at the Monroe Institute, a program that uses frequencies to synchronize your brain hemispheres, allowing you to remote view and astral travel. What do you guys think about that? Peace.
A game that made the boy his family. His father, who was a police officer, left his gun at a table. The boy started playing his VR game and accidentally used his father's gun. He was unaware of the reality as he thought he was shooting at the characters in the game, but in reality, he shot his own family members to death. After this incident, the boy suffered terrible psychological trauma and was sent to asylum.
Yo, after he fired that first shot, he didn't hear those loud bang, bang, bangs? You would have thought after hearing that, you would have been like, this is definitely not a toy gun.
People in the Middle Ages slept twice a night. Instead of sleeping through the night like we do today, people in the Middle Ages slept in 2 phases, what we'd call biphasic or segmented sleep. They'd hit the sack very early, since the night was generally very dangerous, and would sleep for a few hours. Then, they'd usually wake up between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. to engage in what they called the watch. Typically, the peasants used that time to check on their animals, while religious folk spent it in prayer, and even criminals took advantage of the darkness for their misdeeds. After their activities, they'd go back to sleep for what was known as the second sleep. Since most people couldn't afford their own beds, many ended up sleeping together, accompanied by family, friends, and even servants. And for couples who managed a bit more privacy, The watch was the perfect excuse for a bit of cheeky lovemaking, if you know what I mean.
Joseph Stalin collapsed on the floor in his room from a massive stroke, but instead of calling for medical help, his staff waited an entire night, afraid to enter. You see, Stalin was known to execute anyone who disturbed him. Fearing that, they waited until morning before finally discovering his unconscious but still alive body. But by then it was too late. The very fear he created had cost him his life.
In the 1970s, a man from Australia discovered an old doll beneath the floor of an abandoned house. It had glass eyes, realistic human hair, and a face carved from wood, too detailed, too lifelike. He took it home, thinking it was just an antique, but something felt off. That night he left the doll in his car. By morning, the windows were fogged from the inside and the doll was no longer lying down. It was sitting upright, facing the driver's seat. At home, things got stranger. Lights flickered, cold air clung to rooms it passed through. His dog growled at nothing, and his kids swore they saw the doll's eyes move. He tried locking it away, but every time it rattled the box, scratched at the inside, as if it wanted out. They named it Let Me Out. Psychics who examined it claimed it held the soul of a drowned boy, and confirmed something else. The hair on the doll was real, human. No one dared destroy it. Today, Letta sits in a sealed glass case, but visitors still report chills. Sometimes, people say it moves even inside the glass. Others hear soft tapping, and one woman swore she heard it whisper, right against her ear, "Let me out."
This is how Jeffrey Epstein died. He was a billionaire who was a convicted offender, connected to presidents, royalty, and some of the most powerful people on earth. But his private island? That's what got people talking. In 2019, Epstein was arrested and charged with trafficking minors, and the details were disturbing. Everyone wanted to know who else was involved. Then, just a few weeks later, he was gone. Epstein was found in his jail cell, unresponsive. The official story? He took his own life. But the cameras outside his cell, they mysteriously malfunctioned. The guards? Asleep at 6 p.m. And Epstein? He'd previously been on watch, but somehow that had been lifted. People began to ask, how does the highest profile inmate in the country die under 24/7 surveillance without anyone noticing? 3 days before his death, he was even seen with the president. Was it really, or did one of his buddies help him escape?
Applied for a janitor job at a hospital, but never cleaned a single thing. Instead, he walked into the operating room, put on scrubs, and started assisting in surgeries. For 6 months, no one questioned him. He knew all the terms, all the tools. He'd watched thousands of hours of surgery videos online. He wasn't even a high school graduate. They only caught him when a real nurse recognized him from her TikTok feed.
This is how to reinvent soap if civilization restarts. Because if you think things smell bad now, wait till people stop washing. Soap isn't luxury, it's survival. It kills bacteria, removes filth, and keeps your armpits from starting a second pandemic. Here's what you'll need. Animal fat. Yes, the greasy stuff. Wood ash, from an actual fire, not your vape. And water, preferably not radioactive. Step 1. Burn hardwood. Grab the soft white ash, not the chunky black bits. You're making lye, not barbecue. Step 2. Pour water through the ash. Boom. Lye water. It's caustic, so don't drink it unless you hate your insides. Step 3. Melt your fat. Stir in the lye slowly. If it starts to look like pudding, congrats. You're halfway to soap, or a chemical burn. Step 4. Pour it into a mold, like a shell, a cup, or the bottom of your apocalypse boot. Let it sit for a few days until it hardens. Congrats. You just made primitive soap. It might be rough, it might smell like bacon, but it works.
If your kitten grew to the size of a tiger, you might think it would be cute, but it would weigh over 600 pounds, and unlike a wild animal, it wouldn't be afraid of you. A single pounce would be enough to shatter your ribcage, and a gentle bite would crush your bones. As it played, it would bat your head like a toy, breaking your neck, and when it got tired, it could curl up on your chest, slowly choking you to
This is how Takeoff. He was the calm one in Amigos. He preferred to stay out of the spotlight and live a regular, normal life, just hanging out with friends and family. But not even that was enough to escape the 27 Club. November 1st, 2022, Takeoff was with Kendrick at a private party. It wasn't anything fancy, just a few friends at a bowling alley playing beer pong. But then an argument broke out over something small. Takeoff wasn't even arguing. He was just standing nearby, watching and listening to the commotion, until someone pulled a gun. The shooter fired 2 rounds. The first didn't hit anything, but the second shot hit Takeoff directly in the head. In a split second, the room turned to screams and everyone ran. Takeoff collapsed to the ground and succumbed to his injury. A few days later, the police arrested a suspect, but no one could identify him, so he was released. Online, people quickly began spreading conspiracies, like the shooter was paid off by another rapper, but nonetheless, it was just a sad day for the music industry, losing such a young legend.
I think it was like the first day of November, like November 1st, 2022, when Takeoff died. He is a rapper in a group called Migos. It's crazy how sometimes it's the people that are literally out the way, not really like too focused on the drama, not really into that rah, is the people that get hurt, bro. Super sad, bro. R.I.P. Takeoff.
Thank you all for